The Book of Wealth. 25 Formulas to Attract Wealth Without Physical Effort. If it's in your mind, you can get there. Wealth begins long before it appears in your bank account. It is born, grows, and strengthens within the mind, silently, before anyone around you notices. What most people don't understand is that money, opportunities, and prosperity are not, in essence, the starting point. The starting point is how the mind is trained to think, react, and believe. Therefore, when we talk about attracting wealth without physical effort, we're not talking about standing still and waiting for something to fall from the sky, but rather about internally building a mental structure so solid, so convinced, that it inevitably begins to transform the reality around you. Imagine someone who, even without great resources, carries within them the absolute certainty that they will prosper. This certainty changes their posture, their tone of voice, their decisions, and the way they approach problems. This is what opens doors that previously seemed closed. If you really want to be a rich person, start by subscribing to this channel. Make sure you've also hit the like button, because in the next few days you'll be posting new videos that will bring you closer to your goals. Many people still believe that wealth depends solely on working longer hours, waking up earlier, or physically sacrificing oneself to exhaustion. But if that were all, everyone who works hard would be rich, and we know that's not the case. Physical effort has limits, but the mind doesn't. Those who understand this begin to realize that the real game takes place in the invisible realm of thoughts. It's in this realm that you choose whether you'll be someone who constantly chases money or someone to whom money is naturally drawn. The difference between these two realities is what separates those who are always chasing after it and those who seem to be lucky all the time. But it's not luck, it's mindset. One of the most powerful formulas for attracting wealth is creating an internal dialogue of prosperity. This means paying attention to the words you use with yourself and others. Those who repeat phrases like, "It's hard," but "there's no money," but "there's never enough left," are programming their minds to find proof of these statements every day. The mind is like a radar. It filters and focuses only on what confirms your beliefs. So, if you believe that money is rare and difficult to come by, it will find reasons to prove it, pushing away opportunities. On the other hand, when you consciously choose to say and repeat that there is abundance, that opportunities arise constantly, that you are prepared to receive them, the mind begins to seek evidence of this, and that's when doors begin to open. Here's an essential point. It's not enough to simply repeat positive phrases without believing them. You need to train the emotion behind the words. Saying, "I am prosperous," while deep down you feel limited, is like planting seeds in dry soil. That's why visualization is so powerful. When you allow yourself to close your eyes and truly feel what it's like to live a life of abundance, when you can imagine situations, places, and sensations as if they were already real, you're feeding your mind with images that it will work to make real. The mind doesn't distinguish between imagination and fact, so if you bombard it daily with images of prosperity, it begins to act to confirm this in the physical world. Another fundamental formula is to change your relationship with money. Many people treat money as something to be controlled with fear, as if it could slip away at any moment. This creates tension, and tension hinders the flow. When you begin to see money as an ally, as energy in motion that likes to circulate, the relationship changes. Instead of holding on to each coin in fear, you begin to manage it with confidence, knowing that it will return, that there's more where it came from. Those who live in fear of spending send the message to their mind that there isn't enough, and the mind responds by blocking new inflows. Those who handle money with confidence, even with small amounts, reinforce the idea of abundance. The most fascinating thing is realizing how these formulas don't depend on external conditions. It doesn't matter where you live, your current profession, or how much money you have in your bank account today. What matters is how you train your mind every day to create the reality you desire. True transformation begins when you accept that your financial life is directly linked to how you think and feel about money and yourself. And when that happens, you stop waiting for external miracles and start creating internal miracles, which sooner or later manifest externally. If you want this message to stick in your mind, do something simple yet powerful right now. Say out loud, "I choose wealth. I create wealth. I live in abundance." Repeat 3 times, feeling each word as if it were already true. Then write in the comments, "I choose wealth." This simple act of affirming and recording reinforces mental programming. It seems small, but it's the kind of action that, done every day, changes the course of your life. The second formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is learning to align your identity with prosperity. This means understanding that you don't attract what you desire in a loose and distant way, but rather what you believe you are. There's a big difference between wanting to be rich and seeing yourself as rich. Wanting is always in the future, in the idea that one day it will happen. Seeing yourself as prosperous is in the present, in the now, and creates an internal vibration that begins to be reflected in small actions and decisions. And it's precisely in these small actions that change begins. For example, if you see yourself as someone living in scarcity, even when you earn a little more, you tend to spend impulsively or hold on to money out of fear, perpetuating the lack. But if you see yourself as prosperous, regardless of the amount you currently have, you begin to act with confidence, organization, and clarity. This identity isn't built overnight. It's the result of ongoing mental training, in which you consciously choose to put yourself in the shoes of the person you want to be. This includes caring for your appearance according to the image of wealth you want to project, improving your living environment to reflect organization and care, and even choosing words more aligned with prosperity. If your home, clothes, and vocabulary don't reflect abundance, your mind will have a hard time believing you're prosperous. It's like trying to convince someone with a story you don't believe yourself. Another essential point is to understand that attracting wealth without physical effort doesn't mean living in silence, but rather focusing on the right actions, guided by a rich mindset. People with an abundance mindset make decisions based on opportunities, not fear. They evaluate possibilities and allow themselves to take calculated risks because they trust the return. Those with a scarcity mindset, on the other hand, make decisions based on protection, often rejecting opportunities for fear of losing what little they have. This behavior creates a cycle in which nothing new happens and financial life stagnates. A daily practice that strengthens this mindset is detailed visualization. Close your eyes and imagine yourself living the life you desire, but not just seeing general images. Feel the textures, perceive the sounds, imagine the smells and colors. If it's a car, feel the steering wheel in your hands. If it's a house, imagine waking up in that room. The more real the image, the easier it will be for your brain to accept it as truth, and when that happens, your actions begin to naturally move in that direction. Changing how you react to difficulties is also a fundamental part of this formula. People who attract wealth don't despair when faced with an obstacle because they understand that every challenge brings with it a hidden opportunity. This approach isn't naivete, it's a mental strategy. By viewing problems as invitations to find creative solutions, you keep your mind open and active, allowing you to see paths most people overlook. This is how ideas that change everything emerge, and it doesn't depend on physical strength but on mental clarity. Now I want to propose an exercise that will imprint this part of our book on your mind. Choose a phrase that represents wealth to you. It could be something like "I am abundant" or "My life overflows with prosperity." Write this phrase on a piece of paper and place it somewhere you'll see it several times a day. In your wallet, on your mirror, on your bedroom door. Every time you look at it, repeat it mentally and feel as if it were true. This small habit creates constant reinforcement in your mind, helping you align your identity with the prosperity you want to experience. And to reinforce this commitment, write in the comments now, "My identity is wealth." The more actively you engage in this process, the faster you'll notice the changes happening around you, sometimes so naturally that they seem coincidental, but they're just a reflection of what you've planted in your mind. The third formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is learning to master the power of selective attention. Everything you frequently observe, comment on, think about, or feel intensely inevitably becomes more present in your life. It's as if the mind acts as a filter, allowing certain information to pass through and blocking others. The problem is that, for many people, this filter is configured to capture what is negative, difficult, or limiting. Those who live trapped in this mental configuration end up reinforcing the same realities they want to avoid every day. The consequence is simple. The mind becomes accustomed to encountering problems, and problems seem to multiply. If you observe, you'll notice that there are people who, even in the midst of difficulties, continue to find reasons to believe and move forward. These people aren't lucky, nor do they have a special power that others don't. What they've developed is the ability to direct their attention to what truly matters: opportunities, solutions, and paths to growth. This skill doesn't come naturally to most, but it can be trained like any other. The key is to understand that attention is a limited and therefore precious resource. Where you place it will determine the quality of your financial, emotional, and even physical life. Imagine your attention as a flashlight in a dark room. Wherever you point it, that part will be illuminated. If you shine it on the dusty corners, you'll see only dirt and clutter. But if you point it at the neatly arranged table in the center of the room, you'll see organization and beauty. The room is the same, but the experience changes completely depending on your focus. Life is exactly like that. Reality has positive and negative aspects happening simultaneously, but you decide which part you want to illuminate. Those who choose to illuminate abundance begin to see it grow. Those who insist on illuminating scarcity end up living in it. A common mistake is to believe that paying attention to the problem will help solve it. In practice, the opposite happens. By paying too much attention to the problem, you fuel it. The human mind works like a radar, seeking information that confirms what it already believes. So if you're convinced that everything is difficult, your mind will find daily evidence to support this idea. On the other hand, if you train your mind to look for signs that there are opportunities everywhere, it will find evidence to validate this belief as well. This is the essence of selective attention. To change this pattern, you must first become aware of your current patterns. Notice what you say in conversations, what you think when you're alone, and how you react to the news. If most of your internal and external dialogue revolves around hardship, lack of money, overdue bills, and fear of the future, this explains why your financial reality remains the same. Change begins when you intentionally choose to put mental energy into constructive activities. It doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist, but deciding that they won't be your primary focus. An extremely effective practice for training selective attention is creating an abundance journal. It works like this. Every day at the end of the day, write down at least 3 events or situations that represented prosperity for you. It doesn't matter how small. It could be an unexpected payment, a compliment received, a good deal closed, or even something as simple as having a moment of peace and rest. By journaling, you force your brain to look for positive events, even on the most challenging days. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to spot these signs. Over time, your brain begins to identify opportunities more quickly and naturally, without conscious effort. Another strategy is to filter the stimuli you consume. This means limiting negative news, avoiding conversations that reinforce scarcity, and seeking out content that strengthens your vision of abundance. If your mind is constantly fed stories of crisis, injustice, and failure, don't expect it to work in your favor. Just as you wouldn't feed your body poison every day, you shouldn't feed your mind information that destroys your confidence and sense of possibility. And here's a key point. When you start focusing on prosperity, your mind begins to notice details that were previously invisible. It's like adjusting a camera lens. Suddenly the image becomes clearer. Situations that once seemed ordinary reveal hidden opportunities. An unassuming conversation can become an invitation to something that improves your life. A simple idea can become a path to multiplying your income. These coincidences aren't luck, but the direct result of a brain trained to see beyond the obvious. I want you to try something starting today. For a whole week, practice the selective attention challenge. Throughout the day, whenever something positive happens, no matter how small, mentally say, "This is abundance." Do this until it becomes automatic. At the end of the 7 days, notice how your gaze will be more trained to find the good and how your energy will be lighter. It's this mental lightness that makes room for more good things to enter your life. Now, to reinforce and create a symbolic milestone for this change, write in the comments, "I choose to focus on abundance." By doing this, you not only declare your decision, but also reinforce to your brain that you are committed to a new way of living. It's a simple but powerful step because it marks the beginning of a mental reprogramming that will stay with you every day. The 4th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to replace comparison with inspiration. This may seem simple at first glance, but it's a game changer in building an abundance mindset. Comparison is a silent trap that traps many people in feelings of inferiority, scarcity, and backwardness. It drains mental energy and prevents you from recognizing your own progress. When you compare your life to that of someone who seems richer, more successful, or more advanced than you, it inevitably generates 2 detrimental effects: frustration from feeling behind, and discouragement from believing you'll never reach that level. Inspiration, on the other hand, creates the opposite effect. When you observe someone who has already achieved what you desire, instead of feeling diminished, you use that image as living proof that it's possible. Inspiration transforms another's success into fuel for your own journey. It's as if you say to yourself, if it works for them, it can work for me too. I just need to prepare myself and align myself with this outcome. This shift in attitude seems subtle, but it's profoundly transformative. The big difference between comparison and inspiration lies in the source of the emotion they generate. Comparison fuels envy, anxiety, and self-sabotage. Inspiration sparks admiration, curiosity, and action. When you choose to be inspired, your mind becomes open to learning. You begin to observe what that person does, how they think, and what habits they maintain, and this becomes a practical reference for shaping your own path. One way to practice this formula is to create a success reference list. Choose 3 to 5 people who represent to you what it means to live in abundance. This isn't about imitating or trying to be like them, but about observing positive patterns that you can adapt to your reality. This could be someone you know, a historical figure, or even someone you follow online. The important thing is that these references spark inspiration, not competition. It's also essential to adjust how you talk about these people. When a scarcity mindset is in control, it's common to hear phrases like, "Oh, but so-and-so was lucky," or "she got there because she already had help." This kind of thinking diminishes the other person's achievements and prevents you from seeing what you could learn from them. By shifting to an abundance mindset, you start asking yourself, what positive can I take away from this story? Or, how can I adapt this strategy to my life? And here comes a point that's often overlooked. You're also a source of inspiration to someone. It could be a friend, a family member, or even someone observing your actions from afar. When you remember this, you understand that your actions have a much greater impact than you realize. This thought strengthens your sense of responsibility and the desire to grow, not only for yourself, but also so that others feel motivated. Now, I want you to do a simple but powerful exercise. Think of a person who represents prosperity and abundance to you. It could be someone famous or someone in your personal circle. Imagine yourself talking to this person, absorbing every detail of what they say and observing how they act. Then write in the comments, "I choose to be inspired, not compared." This phrase is a direct reminder to your brain about the path you want to follow. Over time, by replacing comparison with inspiration, you'll find that others' success stops being a threat and becomes an invitation to get closer to your own. And it's precisely in this mindset that wealth flows more easily, because you stop wasting energy looking elsewhere and start directing everything toward your own growth. The 5th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to learn to live as if you've already achieved what you desire. This doesn't mean spending money you don't have, nor pretending to live a life that isn't yours, but rather cultivating, daily, the attitude, mindset, and emotions that someone wealthy already possesses. When you begin acting, thinking, and feeling like the person you want to become, your brain begins working to align external reality with this new internal identity. It's as if you're giving your mind a clear command. This is the new me. Now, adjust the rest of my life to match it. Many people fail because they live waiting for reality to change first, and only then change their behavior. They think, when I have more money, I'll dress better, speak more confidently, and take better care of my surroundings. But this logic keeps the person stuck in the same situation, because what transforms the external is precisely the internal change. Those who reverse this order and begin to act as if they already have the desired life create such a coherent vibration that opportunities, the right people, and the necessary conditions begin to appear naturally. This starts with simple details. If you imagine that the wealthy version of yourself wakes up early and feels energized, takes care of their body and appearance, then start doing that now, regardless of their bank balance. If you believe that a prosperous person speaks clearly and conveys confidence, start practicing your communication skills now. If you believe that a wealthy person organizes their finances with discipline, start this habit today, even if it's with small amounts. Your brain needs to feel that it's already living this new reality to begin seeking ways to sustain it in the physical world. Another important point is the environment. Look at the place where you live and ask yourself, does this house represent the life I want or the life I accept? Often, clutter, lack of care, and disorganization in the environment reflect a person's internal state. Organizing, cleaning, And caring for your living space isn't just a matter of aesthetics, but a signal to your brain that you value and respect what you already have, making room for more. The act-as-if mentality also involves financial decisions. It doesn't mean spending irresponsibly, but investing in yourself wisely, as someone wealthy would. This could include learning a new skill, improving your personal image, or creating a more inspiring work environment. Every small choice aligned with your future identity reinforces this mental programming. There's also a powerful emotional aspect to this process, feeling now the emotions you imagine you'll feel when you achieve your goal. Close your eyes and imagine yourself living your life of abundance. Feel the security, tranquility, and joy. Allow yourself to experience these emotions every day, even if your current situation doesn't yet match them. The brain doesn't distinguish between a real emotion and an intensely imagined one. By feeling these emotions now, you begin to create an internal pattern that attracts situations compatible with this state. To reinforce this formula, I want you to do a practical exercise. Choose a daily habit that your wealthy self would already have and start implementing it today. It could be taking better care of your appearance, keeping your surroundings impeccable, eating healthier, or speaking with more confidence. Then write in the comments, "I live as if I already had it." This phrase will serve as a daily reminder that you are aligning your present life with your desired life. Over time, this behavior ceases to be just a mental exercise and becomes a lifestyle. And it is at this point that the transition occurs. What was once just a mental rehearsal becomes your concrete reality. This is how wealth begins to manifest itself, not through extreme physical effort, but through the coherence between who you are internally and the life you live externally. The sixth formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to cultivate strategic gratitude. Most people have heard of gratitude, but few understand the power of applying it consciously and purposefully to build wealth. Strategic gratitude isn't just about being thankful out of politeness or habit. It's about developing the ability to recognize value in everything that already exists in your life, while simultaneously focusing on what you want to achieve. It's a twofold act, being grateful for what is and preparing the mental space for what will be. When you train your mind to find real reasons to be grateful every day, even if they're small, you're creating a mental field of abundance. And abundance, like scarcity, feeds off itself. If you're constantly complaining, pointing out problems, and bemoaning what you don't have, your mind starts working to find more reasons to confirm this scarcity. On the other hand, when you recognize and value every achievement, every opportunity, every resource, no matter how small, your brain begins to seek out more elements that reinforce this vision of abundance. Strategic gratitude also teaches something fundamental, the value of what you already have. Many people think they'll only feel happy or fulfilled when they achieve that amount, that good, or that life. But this mindset keeps satisfaction always in the future, and this creates a cycle of chronic dissatisfaction. When you learn to feel gratitude now, in the present, it sends the message to your mind and body that you're already on the right path, and this generates an emotional state that more easily attracts new opportunities. A powerful practice is to write every morning or evening a list of at least 5 things you're grateful for. They can be simple, like having good health, access to information, or even overcoming a challenge that day. The key is not just to list, but to feel the emotion behind each item. There's no point in writing, "I'm grateful for my home," mechanically. You need to stop for a few seconds and truly feel the importance of having a safe roof over your head, noticing the details, the memories, and the comfort it provides. Another aspect of strategic gratitude is applying it not only to what's already good, but also to challenging situations. It seems counterintuitive, but being grateful for a problem or obstacle is recognizing that it's bringing learning and growth. This doesn't mean relishing the problem, but understanding that each experience can contribute to your development. When you adopt this attitude, you stop playing the victim and embrace the role of creator of your own reality. Strategic gratitude can also be used as a tool to project the future. This means giving thanks in advance for things you haven't yet achieved, as if they were already a reality. For example, I'm grateful for the financial stability I have, even if you're still building that stability. By doing this, you train your brain to familiarize yourself with this reality and act in alignment to make it a reality. I want you to do a practical exercise now. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and think of 3 things you're grateful for today. Then, imagine 3 things you still want to achieve and thank them as if they were already yours. Feel this gratitude as if it were real, as if you were already living this moment. This exercise, repeated daily, creates an extremely powerful mental program. To solidify this formula, write in the comments, "My gratitude creates my wealth." This will act as a mental anchor, reminding you that every time you feel genuine gratitude, you're strengthening your path to prosperity. Over time, you'll realize that strategic gratitude isn't just an emotional practice, but a wealth-building skill. It shapes the way you see the world, transforms challenges into opportunities, and makes room for more good things to come your way. And all this without extreme physical effort, simply through the power of an intentional and disciplined mindset. The seventh formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to eliminate the vocabulary of scarcity. This goes far beyond positive thinking. We're talking about consciously reprogramming the words you use every day, because each word carries an emotional charge and creates mental images that directly influence your decisions and actions. What you constantly repeat to yourself shapes the way your brain sees reality. The vocabulary of scarcity is full of phrases like, "I can't," "It's hard," "There's never any left," "I can't," "The money disappears," "My life is complicated." These phrases may seem simple or even harmless, but they act as commands your brain follows to the letter. If you say there's never any money left, your mind will find unconscious ways to spend just enough to confirm that statement. If you repeat, "It's hard," you'll start to notice and remember only the moments that prove this difficulty. Changing this requires attention and practice. First, you need to become conscious of the words you use every day, especially when talking about money, work, opportunities, and yourself. Often, the language of scarcity is so automatic that people don't even notice it. It's like a program running in the background on your computer. You don't see it, but it's consuming energy and determining the machine's performance. Once you've identified these phrases, the next step is to replace them with words that fuel abundance. For example, swap "I can't" for "I'll find a way." Swap "It's hard" for "I'm learning to deal with it." Swap "I never have any leftovers" for "I'm learning to multiply." This shift may seem subtle, but it completely alters how your brain interprets the situation. While the language of scarcity closes off possibilities, the language of abundance opens paths. It's also important to remember that vocabulary refers not only to what you say, but also to what you think. Many conversations happen only inside your mind, and they have as much power as external ones. If, when faced with a challenge, your internal reaction is to say, "I can't do it," you've already set yourself up for defeat before you even try. But if your automatic response is, "I'll find a way," you open yourself up to finding solutions. The influence of this vocabulary is so strong that it even changes physical posture. Words charged with scarcity make the body more tense, breathing shorter and energy lower. Words of abundance make the body expand, breathing deeper, and the mind work more creatively. It's as if each phrase is a trigger that puts you in a state of weakness or strength. To practice this change, create a mental alert. Over the next week, whenever you notice yourself using a scarcity expression, stop, breathe, and immediately rephrase it. It may be uncomfortable at first because it requires attention, but with repetition, it becomes automatic. Over time, you'll not only speak differently, but you'll think differently, and that's what changes your financial reality. I want you to make a public commitment to this transformation right now. Write in the comments the phrase, "My mouth speaks wealth, my mind thinks wealth." This simple act will serve as a reminder that you are, starting today, installing a new vocabulary in your life. By eliminating the vocabulary of scarcity and replacing it with the language of abundance, you'll find yourself making smarter decisions, feeling more confident, and attracting situations that previously seemed distant. This isn't a coincidence. It's the direct consequence of a brain that's now receiving clear commands to seek prosperity. The eighth formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to train your mind to see opportunities where most see problems. This is crucial because most people are so conditioned to see only what's wrong that they become blind to the doors that open in the midst of difficulties. It's almost as if there are two worlds coexisting, one where everything seems blocked, and another where there are possible paths. And the only difference between living in one or the other is how you view the situation. What separates those who become wealthy from those who remain stuck in the same reality is not the absence of problems, but the ability to transform each obstacle into a trigger to seek solutions. This doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of continuous mental training, in which you teach your brain to respond constructively to challenges. Where most react with complaints and paralysis, those with this mindset respond with questions like, what can I learn here? How can I turn this into something positive? What opportunity is hidden in this? The truth is, behind almost every difficult situation lies an opportunity for growth, an important connection, a new idea, or a necessary change that only surfaced because of that moment. Those who can keep an open mind enough to see this gain a huge advantage, because while most are busy complaining, they are taking action. To train this perspective, you need to change your mental reflexes. Instead of reacting with frustration, train yourself to react with curiosity. For example, if something doesn't turn out as expected, instead of thinking this is a disaster, ask, what can I do differently to achieve a better outcome? This simple shift in question completely alters your mindset and puts you on the path to solutions. Another powerful practice is to revisit past moments when a difficult situation ultimately led to something positive. Perhaps a loss paved the way for a greater gain, or a mistake taught you something you still use today. When you revisit these experiences, you reinforce the belief that even negative situations can be a springboard to prosperity. And here's an important detail. Those who train their minds to spot opportunities begin to notice patterns and signals that others ignore. It's like tuning your ear to a song that was playing but previously went unnoticed. Often, a phrase someone said, a detail in a conversation, or a change in the environment can become the idea that changes your life. But for this to happen, you need to be in the right frame of mind, open, attentive, and not rushing to judge something as good or bad before investigating. I want to propose an exercise for you to try today. Choose a current challenge you're facing and make a list of at least 5 opportunities it might be hiding. It doesn't matter if at first glance these opportunities seem small or unlikely. The important thing is to train your brain to look for the useful within the problem. This habit, repeated frequently, will shape a new mental pattern that will become automatic. And to reinforce this commitment, write in the comments, I see opportunities where others see problems. This phrase isn't just symbolic. It will act as a mental trigger that over time will emerge spontaneously whenever you're faced with a challenge. Throughout your journey, you'll realize that this ability to spot opportunities is one of the greatest assets anyone can have. It doesn't depend on exhaustive physical effort or ideal conditions. It depends solely on a trained mindset, capable of transforming any scenario into a fertile field for wealth. The 9th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to learn to think in terms of growth, not limitation. This is a profound mental shift because most people, without realizing it, live making decisions based on what they fear losing rather than what they can gain. This way of thinking imprisons, blocks creativity, and prevents wealth from flowing. When you start thinking based on growth, you begin to seek ways to multiply, expand, and seize opportunities instead of simply protecting yourself from what you fear. Limiting thinking is always preoccupied with, I can't, it's risky, now's not the time. It's the mindset that says, I'll save every penny because you never know, or I'd better not try to avoid losing what little I have. Of course, there's value in being prudent, but when prudence becomes paralysis, it ceases to protect and begins to impede progress. People who think in terms of growth see prudence as a tool, not a wall. They ask themselves, how can I invest to multiply, rather than how can I avoid spending at all costs? This growth mindset creates an interesting effect. It releases energy. When you focus solely on avoiding loss, you live in fear and tension. When you focus on growth, you live with curiosity and motivation. This energy directly influences your decisions, your attitude, and even how others react to you. Those who think about growth attract people who are also open to creating and expanding. Those who think about limitation attract those who are always looking to cut, reduce, and close doors. An important step in developing this type of thinking is to start asking questions that open up possibilities. For example, instead of how will I pay this bill, ask, how can I generate enough value to pay this bill easily and still have some left over? Instead of how will I survive this month, ask, what can I do to make this month the most prosperous I've ever had? These questions shift the focus from scarcity to creation, and it's in this shift that the brain begins to find solutions that were previously invisible. Another aspect is to create a habit of celebrating every step forward, no matter how small. If you've managed to save a little more, find an opportunity, or learn something new, celebrate. This celebration doesn't need to be expensive or exaggerated, but it should be conscious, so your brain registers that you're on the path to growth. When you mentally reinforce that you're moving forward, even if slowly, you create a positive cycle where each step motivates the next. It's also important to filter out external influences. Talking to people who only talk about crises, cuts, and difficulties reinforces a limiting mindset. Connecting with those who talk about projects, ideas, and expansion reinforces a growth mindset. You don't need to completely cut off contact with those who think differently, but you need to protect yourself so that others' scarcity mindset doesn't become your own. Now I want you to do a practical exercise. Think about an area of your life where you often have limiting thoughts. It could be money, career, relationships, or anything else. Write a sentence that represents this limitation and then rephrase it to reflect growth. For example, I never have any money left over could become, I'm always finding new ways to increase my income. Read this new sentence every day for a week and notice how it begins to shape your actions. To make this commitment, write in the comments, I think about growth, not limitation. Over time, this phrase will stop being just a reminder and become part of your mental reflex. When you adopt a growth mindset, you begin to act like someone who is expanding, not constantly protecting yourself. And this is one of the keys to attracting wealth without physical effort, because it puts you constantly in the flow of creation and multiplication, rather than in the cycle of fear and withdrawal. The 10th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to train mental discipline to maintain consistency, even when results don't yet appear. This is perhaps one of the most challenging aspects for most people, because we live in a time where everything is fast, immediate, and instantaneous. The problem is that true wealth, the kind that sustains and grows, rarely arises from a single stroke of luck. It is built brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice, and this requires mental consistency. Think of the mind as a muscle. Just as you can't transform your body with just one day of training, you can't transform your financial life with just one day of thinking differently. Mental discipline is the ability to maintain your chosen direction, even when motivation wavers, even when no one is watching, and even when external reality doesn't yet show clear signs of change. It's this discipline that keeps you practicing wealth habits every day until they become second nature. A common mistake is giving up too soon. Many people begin applying new attitudes and positive thoughts, but stop as soon as they encounter a difficulty or realize that external changes are slow. They forget that the process of transformation first happens in the invisible, in the mind, in beliefs, in daily micro-decisions, and only then manifests in the physical world. Those who understand this accept that consistency is part of the game and continue, even if the results are still small. To develop this discipline, it's essential to create daily rituals that reinforce the wealth mindset. This could be a moment of visualization upon waking, an inspiring read before bed, practicing strategic gratitude, or even repeating powerful affirmations while getting ready in the morning. What's important isn't the length of the ritual, but its frequency. Repetition creates increasingly deeper mental pathways, and these pathways eventually become the natural path your mind chooses to follow. Another crucial point is learning to measure progress intelligently. If you only measure by immediate financial results, you may become frustrated. But if you measure by metrics like how many days in a row I maintained my mental ritual, how many times I chose to think about abundance instead of scarcity, or how many new opportunities I perceived this week, you create a constant sense of progress. This feeling of progress is a powerful fuel to keep going. It's also important to protect your discipline from mental saboteurs. There will be days when you wake up unmotivated, when the environment around you seems against you, and when it's easier to give up. In these moments, remember, discipline isn't about doing things only when you feel like it. It's about doing them because you've decided it's right, and this decision must be above any emotional ups and downs. To reinforce this formula, I want to propose a simple exercise. Choose a wealth mental habit you've learned so far and commit to practicing it every day for the next 21 days. This could be writing your abundance journal, reframing limiting thoughts, or visualizing your ideal life. Write down each day you complete the habit on a calendar. By the end of the 21 days, you'll have not only practiced consistency, but also created a solid mental foundation that will facilitate continuation. And to seal this commitment, write in the comments, "My discipline builds my wealth." This phrase will remind you daily that prosperity is the result of consistent choices, not isolated actions. When mental discipline becomes part of your lifestyle, attracting wealth stops being sporadic and becomes inevitable, because regardless of the circumstances, you'll always be planting the right seeds and you'll inevitably reap the rewards in due time. The 11th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to develop unshakable self-confidence. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're better than others, but about building a level of self-confidence so solid that no obstacle, outside opinion, or temporary negative outcome can break your resolve. Confidence is like a mental anchor that keeps you firmly on your path, even when life's waves try to push you back. Most people think of confidence as something you either have or you don't, as if it were a fixed personality trait. But the truth is, confidence can be developed, trained, and strengthened like any skill. And most importantly, confidence doesn't just come from believing you can succeed, but from consistently acting in a way that's consistent with what you want to achieve. It's the result of keeping promises to yourself, of proving yourself capable day after day until your brain begins to register, I can trust myself. When you lack self-confidence, you hesitate when faced with opportunities. You question too much, self-sabotage, and end up giving up before seeing results. A lack of confidence makes every obstacle seem insurmountable and every criticism seem definitive. Unshakable confidence, on the other hand, does the opposite. It transforms every obstacle into a surmountable challenge and every criticism into information that may or may not be useful, but that doesn't define who you are. The first step to developing this confidence is to stop seeking external approval as your primary source of validation. If you only feel capable when others praise or support you, your confidence will always be in someone else's hands. True confidence comes from within, from positive self-talk and a clear vision of who you are and where you're going. This doesn't mean you should ignore feedback, but it shouldn't be the deciding factor in whether you keep going or quit. Another point is to stick to your word. Every time you say you'll do something and follow through, you're strengthening your inner confidence. Every time you promise something to yourself and don't, you're weakening that confidence. It doesn't matter how big the promise is, the important thing is to keep your commitment. It can be something simple like waking up at the time you set or completing a task you committed to. Repeating small victories creates a mental record that says, I do what I say. It's also essential to pay attention to how you talk to yourself. Words like, I'm incapable, I can't handle it, I always make mistakes, destroy confidence. Instead, use empowering affirmations like, I learn quickly, I can find solutions, and I adapt and move forward. Even if these phrases seem strange at first, over time they become natural and shape how you respond to challenges. To put this formula into practice now, I want to propose an exercise. Choose a small goal to accomplish in the next 24 hours. Something simple, but something you'll actually do no matter what. It could be organizing a space in your home, finishing a book, or practicing a wealth habit we mentioned in the previous sections. When you accomplish this goal, mentally record, I keep my promises. The more you repeat this cycle, the stronger your confidence will become. And to publicly mark this commitment, write in the comments, I have complete confidence in myself. This phrase will serve as a daily reminder that confidence doesn't come from waiting to feel ready, but from taking action and proving yourself capable. When you build unshakable confidence, the external world no longer has the power to paralyze your actions. You keep moving forward, not because everything is perfect, but because you believe in your ability to adapt, learn, and thrive in any circumstance. And it's this attitude that makes attracting wealth a constant and inevitable process. The 12th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to harness the power of absolute clarity. There is no mental force more powerful than that of someone who knows exactly what they want, down to the last detail, and keeps that goal alive in their mind every day. Clarity works like an internal GPS. The more specific the destination, the easier it is to find the way. On the other hand, those who don't know exactly where they're going get stuck in endless circles, trying a little of everything but getting nowhere. Most people live with vague goals. They say things like, I want more money, or I want a better life. But what exactly does more money mean? How much? For what? How long? And what does a better life mean? Is it working less, traveling more, spending more time with family? When the goal is undefined, the mind can't create a clear plan, and without a plan, actions become haphazard, inconsistent, and weak. Clarity is about specificity. It's defining how much you want when you want it, and the exact experience you want to have. It's not enough to say, I want to earn more. You need to say, I want to earn X amount per month by a certain date, so I can do this and live this way. This precision triggers a mental mechanism called reticular focus, which causes the brain to begin to perceive almost automatically the opportunities, resources, and information related to that goal. It's like when you decide to buy a car in a specific color and suddenly start seeing it everywhere. It's always been there, but your brain wasn't paying attention. Another advantage of clarity is that it increases motivation. When your goal is vague, you don't feel any urgency. But when it's specific, you start to feel the need to act now. It's as if the deadline and the detailed picture create a healthy pressure to move. Furthermore, clarity helps you make quicker decisions because you already know whether something moves you closer or further away from your goal. To develop clarity, you need to answer 3 fundamental questions. What exactly do I want? Be as specific as possible with numbers, dates, and descriptions. Why do I want this? Understand the real purpose behind the goal because it's what will keep you going through difficult times. How will I know I've achieved it? Define clear criteria that indicate the goal has been met. A practical exercise to put this formula into action is to write a personal wealth declaration. And take a piece of paper and describe in detail what your life will be like in a year if everything goes as you hope. Include where you'll be living, how much you'll be earning, what your routine will be like, and what kinds of experiences you'll be having. Read this text every morning and before bed. This repetition builds familiarity, and over time, your brain begins to work to turn this vision into reality. It's also important to review and adjust your goals as they evolve. What makes sense today may change in 6 months, and that's okay. Clarity isn't rigidity. It's constant awareness of what truly matters in the moment. Now, to cement this learning and publicly declare your commitment to clarity, write in the comments, "My clarity attracts my wealth." This simple phrase will serve as a mental trigger to remind you that the first step to having something is knowing exactly what you want. When you master absolute clarity, life ceases to be a sequence of random attempts and becomes an intentional journey, with each step directed toward your chosen destination. And when that destination is engraved in your mind, wealth ceases to be a distant possibility and becomes a natural consequence. The 13th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to master the power of conscious repetition. This is an often underestimated principle, but it shapes what you believe, how you behave, and consequently, what you attract into your life. Everything that becomes natural to you, be it a habit, a belief, or a skill, is the result of repetition. The brain is an adaptation machine, and what you repeat frequently eventually becomes your truth. Think about how you learn to write, drive, or even use a cell phone. None of these skills came from a single effort. It took dozens, hundreds, even thousands of repetitions until the action became automatic. The same goes for the wealth mindset. If you want thinking about abundance, seeking opportunities, and acting with confidence to become a natural part of who you are, you need to repeat these patterns every day until they no longer require conscious effort. The problem is that most people unwittingly repeat mental patterns of scarcity. Every day they reinforce negative phrases, imagine scenarios of loss, and feed worries. This repetition creates such a strong conditioning that even when a good opportunity arises, they doubt or sabotage it because their brain is trained to operate in lack mode. The only way to break this cycle is to consciously replace these repetitions with thoughts and behaviors aligned with abundance. Conscious repetition works best when done emotionally intensely. This means it's not enough to simply repeat a phrase like, "I am prosperous," mechanically. You need to add emotion, imagine the scene, and feel it as if it were real. It's this intensity that signals to the brain that the information is important and needs to be registered. Without emotion, repetition becomes mere noise and is easily dismissed by the mind. A powerful practice is to choose 3 wealth affirmations that truly resonate with you and repeat them at strategic times throughout the day, upon waking, before bed, and during situations where you feel doubt or fear. At the same time, use conscious repetition to mentally review images of the future you want to create. See yourself living the life you want in every detail possible. The more often you do this, the more real this vision will become to your mind, and the more it will seek ways to make it a reality. Another important point is the repetition of aligned actions. It's no use simply repeating positive phrases if your behavior contradicts what you say. For example, it doesn't make sense to repeat "I manage my money wisely" and at the same time spend impulsively. Conscious repetition needs to engage both mind and body, thought, emotion, and action together. It's this consistency that creates lasting results. To begin applying this formula, I want you to create a personal repetition cycle. Choose a fixed time each day to repeat your affirmations and visualize your future. Maintain this cycle for at least 30 days in a row. Mark each completed day on your calendar. When you notice the phrases and images automatically appearing throughout the day, you'll know the pattern is taking hold. Now write in the comments, "I repeat wealth until it becomes my nature." This phrase will reinforce your commitment to using the power of conscious repetition to reprogram your mind and attract what you desire. Conscious repetition is like water falling on stone. At first it may seem ineffective, but over time it completely shapes the surface. This is exactly how it shapes your life. When applied consistently, it transforms your mindset, creates solid habits, and puts you on the path to prosperity naturally and inevitably. The 14th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to eliminate haste and cultivate strategic patience. We live in a world obsessed with quick results. People want everything yesterday: money, success, recognition. But haste is the enemy of two fundamental elements for prosperity: consistency and solid construction. Strategic patience, on the other hand, is not about waiting passively, but about moving forward with constancy and awareness, understanding that time is an ally when used wisely. Many people believe that patience is the same as slowness or a lack of ambition, but in reality it's the opposite. Strategically patient people are always moving forward, but they know that each step has its own time to bear fruit. It's like planting a seed. You water it daily, tend to the soil, protect it from pests, but you don't try to pull the stem to make it grow faster. Those who act in haste tend to make impulsive decisions without considering the consequences, and end up wasting time and energy correcting mistakes that could have been avoided. Strategic patience is the art of staying on track without giving in to anxiety. This means understanding that true wealth is built through habits, mindset, and actions repeated over time, not a single stroke of luck. Often this patience also means saying no to opportunities that seem good in the short term, but don't align with your long-term goal. It's having the discipline to keep doing what works, even if you don't see great results yet. To develop this skill, you need to learn to differentiate between movement and progress. Movement is being constantly busy, but without necessarily moving forward. Progress is taking consistent steps in the right direction, even if they're small. When you understand this difference, you stop looking for the miracle shortcut and start investing your energy in actions that truly build the life you want. Another point is learning to manage time wisely. This means using the present to prepare for the future. While many people waste months or years waiting for the right time to act, those who practice strategic patience begin acting now, but with the understanding that the greatest rewards will come over time. It's the famous "build today to reap tomorrow." A practical exercise to practice this is the construction journal. Every day, record at least one action you took to get closer to your wealth goal, no matter how small. At the end of the month, look at the list and realize how small cumulative steps generate a much greater impact than rushed, isolated attempts. This record will help you trust the process more and less worry about immediate results. It's also crucial to monitor your impatience triggers. Often, comparing yourself to other people's progress is what destroys patience. Remember, everyone is at a different point on their journey, with different experiences, resources, and contexts. What matters is whether you're closer to your goal than you were yesterday. To reinforce this formula, write in the comments, "My patience builds my wealth." This phrase will serve as a mental antidote to destructive haste and remind you that true success isn't about getting there first, but about getting there with solidity. When you eliminate haste and embrace strategic patience, anxiety fades, clarity increases, and decisions become more assertive. This not only facilitates the attraction of wealth, but also ensures that when it arrives, you're prepared to maintain and multiply it. The 15th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to create an environment that exudes prosperity. The human mind is deeply influenced by its surroundings. Physical space, the people around you, the objects you see daily, all of these send silent messages to your brain about what's normal and possible for you. Therefore, if your environment conveys scarcity, clutter, and neglect, your mind will become accustomed to this pattern and tend to reproduce it. Many people underestimate the power of their surroundings. They think that a messy room, a neglected appearance, or an excess of broken and forgotten things around the house don't affect anything. But they do. Every detail in your environment is a visual reminder that reinforces a mindset. If you live with signs of neglect daily, your brain registers that this is the standard of living you accept. On the other hand, if you organize, care for, and consciously choose what you keep around you, you send the message that you value and deserve more. Creating an environment of prosperity doesn't mean spending a fortune on decoration or living in luxury. It means, above all, creating a clean, organized, and pleasant space, even if it's simple. It's removing what's broken, what's unused, and keeping only what serves a purpose or brings joy. It's caring for objects, keeping the house smelling good, the desk tidy, the closet organized. Small changes in the environment generate big shifts in mental energy. Another important aspect is the quality of conversations and influences. The environment isn't just physical, it's also social and mental. The people you associate with and the content you consume daily form a mental environment that can strengthen or destroy your wealth mindset. If you spend too much time with people who only complain, who mock those trying to grow, or who see problems in everything, this pattern will inevitably contaminate your worldview. Therefore, it's essential to seek out relationships and role models that inspire and support your growth. You can also create visual symbols of prosperity in your environment. This could be a photo of a place you want to visit, an inspirational quote on the wall, or an object that represents abundance to you. These elements act as triggers that constantly remind you of your goals and reinforce your prosperous identity. A practical exercise to start today is the abundance declutter. Choose a specific room or space and eliminate everything that doesn't serve you, doesn't work, or doesn't represent who you want to become. By freeing up physical space, you're also freeing up mental space for new ideas and opportunities. And to publicly commit to this commitment, write in the comments, "My environment reflects my wealth." This phrase will remind you daily that prosperity doesn't start at the bank. It starts where you live and what you allow around you. Over time, creating an environment that exudes prosperity stops being just a conscious act and becomes a natural part of your lifestyle. And when this happens, every time you wake up and look around, your environment itself is already working to reinforce your wealthy mindset and attract more reasons for it to manifest in practice. The 16th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to learn to value and multiply what you already have. This is one of the most consistent laws of prosperity. What you care for and value tends to grow. What you neglect tends to diminish. Many people focus so much on what they don't yet have that they end up ignoring and even wasting the resources, opportunities, and talents that are already within reach. And this creates an invisible block to the flow of wealth. Valuing what you already have doesn't mean settling or stopping to seek more. It means recognizing that everything in your hands now is raw material for creating something greater. When you treat the little you have with care and intelligence, you're proving to yourself and to life that you're ready to receive more. On the other hand, those who disdain or mistreat what they already have send the mental message that they don't know how to manage it, and their minds close themselves off to new possibilities. The first step is to change how you view and use your current money, regardless of its value. If, for example, your salary or income is lower than you'd like, don't use that as an excuse not to organize it. Instead of saying, "It's so little that it's not even worth planning," say, "I'll manage every penny wisely so it multiplies." This attitude builds discipline and strengthens the belief that you have control over your growth. Another point is to take care of what you've already achieved. This includes your home, your clothes, your work equipment, and also the relationships and knowledge you already possess. Everything that's cared for tends to last longer, yield more, and attract more. A simple act like fixing something broken, cleaning a space, or updating your knowledge can yield unexpected results. Multiplication begins with creativity. Often you already have tools at hand that can generate more value, but you haven't fully explored them yet. It could be a skill you've never turned into a service, a contact that could open doors, or even something that could be reused in a different way. When you train your eye to see ways to multiply what you already have, you begin to recognize opportunities that previously went unnoticed. It's also important to stop complaining about what you have. Complaining creates a state of dissatisfaction that blocks the recognition of possibilities. Instead, use strategic gratitude, which we've already discussed in another formula, to nurture the value of things, then consider how you can expand them. This combination of gratitude and action is one of the most powerful forces for creating prosperity. To put this formula into practice now, I want you to choose 3 things you already own and write down how you can take better care of them or how you can make them generate more value. This could be improving the usability of a piece of equipment, strengthening a relationship, or finding ways to increase the return on an investment. And to publicly reinforce this mindset, write in the comments, "I value and multiply what I have." This phrase will be a daily reminder that you're already on the path to abundance because you're taking excellent care of what's already under your care. Over time, you'll realize that this attitude creates a virtuous cycle. The more you value and multiply what you have, the more resources, opportunities, and wealth come your way. And when they do, you're ready to expand even further. The 17th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to develop the ability to make quick, informed decisions. This is one of the most common characteristics among people who consistently build prosperity. Indecision consumes time and mental energy and often leads to missed opportunities that could lead to significant progress. On the other hand, the ability to make decisions quickly without rushing sets you in motion and opens doors that for the indecisive remain closed. Many people believe they need all the information and guarantees in the world before making a decision. This rarely happens. Real life doesn't offer absolute certainty. It offers signs, possibilities, and calculable risks. Those who learn to quickly analyze available information, assess the risks, and still move forward gain speed on the path to wealth. Indecision is costly. Every time you postpone a decision, you not only waste time, but also energy, because your mind is busy processing that doubt in the background. It's like having a program open on your computer that you're not using, but that continues to consume memory. The more decisions remain open, the slower and slower the system becomes. Making a quick decision doesn't mean acting impulsively. It's a combination of clarity, knowing what you want, judgment, knowing what's important to get there, and confidence, believing in your own ability to handle whatever comes next. Often, making a decision doesn't guarantee a perfect path, but it does guarantee movement, and it's in movement that adjustments, opportunities, and new information emerge, allowing you to correct your course. A common mistake is overthinking small decisions, wasting mental energy that should be reserved for big ones. To avoid this, develop fixed criteria for recurring choices. For example, if an opportunity isn't aligned with your wealth goals, you already know the answer is no without having to waste time analyzing. If a stock potentially accelerates your growth and the risk is low, the answer is an immediate yes. Confidence in decision-making comes partly from experience, but mainly from practice. Each time you make a decision and observe the outcome, you gain more information to improve your future choices. Even decisions that don't produce the expected result can teach you something valuable, as long as you approach them with a mindset of learning, not blame. To practice this skill, practice decision timeout. Whenever you're faced with a choice that doesn't require in-depth analysis, give yourself a maximum of 60 seconds to decide. This will force your mind to evaluate with focus and eliminate procrastination. Now I want you to make a public commitment to this new stance. Write in the comments, "I decide quickly and consciously." This phrase will reinforce that, from today on, you position yourself as someone who acts decisively, not as someone stuck in doubt. Over time, you'll realize that quick, conscious decisions boost your self-confidence, accelerate your progress, and attract more opportunities. This is because the world responds faster to those who act quickly. And when this speed is combined with clarity and purpose, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for building wealth without physical effort. The 18th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to manage mental energy as if managing a precious resource. Most people waste excessive mental energy, engaging in useless worries, pointless discussions, excessive consumption of negative information, and distractions that yield no return. The problem is that mental energy is limited. If you spend it on irrelevant things, there's little left to direct toward wealth creation. Mental energy is in a way like money. If you don't know where it's being spent, you'll end up with less than you'd like when you really need it. Just as you plan a financial budget, it's also possible and necessary to plan how your attention and focus will be used throughout the day. This means consciously deciding which tasks, conversations, and content deserve your attention and which need to be cut or drastically reduced. A common misconception is that mental fatigue comes only from doing difficult things or working too hard. In fact, much of it comes from small, constant decisions, from seemingly harmless stimuli that sap a chunk of your ability to think and create. Every notification on your phone, every negative conversation, every recurring worry saps a chunk of that energy. By the time it's time to make an important decision or create something that could generate wealth, you're already mentally exhausted. Controlling mental energy requires 3 steps. First, eliminate waste. This means reducing interactions that don't add anything, limiting time spent on news and social media, and avoiding arguments that have no practical solution. Second, focus on what matters. Choose a maximum of 3 priorities for the day and direct your energy toward them before getting involved with less relevant tasks. Third, recharge intelligently. This includes intentional rest periods, creativity-boosting activities, physical exercise, and habits that keep your mind fresh. Another essential point is learning to say no more often. Many people accept invitations, tasks, and commitments simply to avoid conflict or to please others, but end up overwhelmed. A yes to something unimportant is a no to something that could truly generate value. The more selective you are about what consumes your mental energy, the more it will be available to create prosperity. To practice this management, make a list of the things that drain your mental energy on a daily basis. It could be a habit, a type of conversation, a person, or even an environment. Then, next to each item, write a practical action to reduce or eliminate this unnecessary expenditure. Even small changes can free up a huge amount of mental energy that can be redirected to more productive and profitable activities. Now, to publicly reinforce this commitment, write in the comments, "My mental energy is for creating wealth." This phrase will serve as a reminder to protect your focus and use it only on things that bring you closer to prosperity. Over time, you'll notice that controlling your mental energy increases your clarity, improves your decisions, and accelerates your progress. And when this becomes a habit, attracting wealth no longer depends on physical effort and becomes a direct result of a focused, rested mind, prepared to seize every opportunity that presents itself. The 19th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to raise your personal standards. The standards you accept for yourself determine the quality of your life, your work, your relationships, and consequently, your financial situation. Anything you tolerate below the level of excellence you desire acts as a silent brake, preventing wealth from manifesting with full force. Raising your standards doesn't mean becoming a perfectionist or living in pursuit of something unattainable, but rather deciding that certain things are no longer acceptable to you. It's about setting clear boundaries around what does and doesn't enter your life. When you decide you'll no longer accept disorganization, delays, broken commitments, or constant excuses, you begin to create a natural filter that selects the opportunities and people who will remain around you. The first step to raising your standards is to identify where you've been settling for less than you deserve. This could be in the way you care for yourself, your living environment, your friendships, or how you manage money. Ask yourself, if I were the most prosperous version of myself, would I accept this as normal? If the answer is no, then that's an area that needs to be addressed. Many people believe they should wait until their financial situation improves before raising their standards. But the reverse is true. It's when you raise your internal standards that your external standards begin to align. This happens because, by deciding that certain situations are no longer part of your life, you begin to act in a way that's consistent with the new reality you desire, and your mind begins to seek ways to sustain this higher standard. Raising your standards also involves investing more in yourself. This could mean taking better care of your appearance, speaking more clearly, seeking new knowledge, or improving your posture and energy. Small adjustments to how you present yourself and position yourself already send the message to your brain and others that you are a worthy person and ready for greater opportunities. Another important point is that as you raise your standards, you'll inevitably distance yourself from certain people and situations. This may be uncomfortable at first, but it's necessary. Those who maintain low standards tend to feel uncomfortable when someone around them starts to change. Remember, you don't need to justify your standards to anyone. They are your personal compass, not someone else's map. To apply this formula today, choose 3 areas of your life where you will immediately raise the bar. It could be caring for your surroundings, the quality of your conversations, or rigorously fulfilling your commitments. Write down these decisions and act on them from now on. And to solidify this commitment, Write in the comments, "My standards create my wealth." This phrase will remind you daily that you are the one who sets the minimum acceptable standard for your life, and that prosperity begins when you stop settling for less than you deserve. When you raise your standards, wealth isn't just attracted, it's sustained. Because the same standard that attracts is the same standard that sustains, and that's what transforms temporary results into lasting prosperity. The 20th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to master the art of maintaining calm in the midst of chaos. This isn't about being cold or indifferent, but about developing the ability to make clear and intelligent decisions, even when circumstances seem to be against you. The world is full of people who miss great opportunities because they get carried away by panic, haste, or the emotion of the moment. Those who learn to remain calm can see paths that others don't and act at the right time. An agitated mind is like a lake with strong waves. You can't see the bottom. A calm mind, on the other hand, is like a serene lake. Everything becomes more visible. When you despair, you lose the ability to think clearly. Emotions take over, and logic is left aside. This leads to hasty decisions, thoughtless actions, and future regrets. Therefore, practicing calm is one of the greatest investments you can make for your prosperity. The first step is to recognize that you can't control everything. Many situations in life, economic downturns, other people's attitudes, unexpected events, are beyond your control. What is always within your control is how you react. And it is this reaction that determines whether you move closer to or further from wealth. Reacting with desperation creates confusion and blocks solutions. Reacting calmly opens space for creativity and intelligent strategies. A practical tool for developing this skill is the mindful pause. When something unexpected or stressful happens, before speaking or acting, take a deep breath and ask yourself 3 questions. Is this under my control? What is the realistic worst-case scenario, and how can I deal with it? What is the best action I can take now? This short break already reduces impulsivity and increases your chances of making a choice more aligned with your long-term goals. Another way to practice calm is to maintain habits that regulate your emotional state daily. This can include physical exercise, meditation, walks outdoors, moments of silence, or even writing about your worries to clear your mind. The more your mind gets used to returning to a state of balance, the faster it can do so in times of stress. It's worth remembering that staying calm doesn't mean not acting. It means acting with control, knowing that decisions made in a state of clarity are much more likely to yield positive results. Many million-dollar deals and opportunities were closed not by those in a hurry, but by those who had the patience and clarity to wait for the right moment and act with precision. Now, to publicly reinforce this formula, write in the comments, "My calm creates my wealth." This phrase will serve as a reminder so that in moments of pressure, you can reconnect with a state of serenity before making decisions. Over time, you'll realize that calm not only protects you from bad decisions, but also attracts people who trust your leadership and clarity. And this, in any area of life, is a magnet for opportunities and sustainable financial growth. The 21st formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to feed your mind with references to abundance every day. Your mind is like a fertile field. What you plant most often is what will grow. If you feed your mind with negative news, talk of scarcity, and content that reinforces hardship, there's no way to expect it to produce thoughts of prosperity. On the other hand, if you nourish it every day with ideas, images, and stories that expand your vision of what's possible, your mindset transforms and begins to act in a way aligned with wealth. People underestimate the power of daily references. They think watching an inspiring video every now and then, or reading a positive quote at the beginning of the year is enough. It's not. Just as the body needs daily nourishment, the mind also needs constant fuel. And it's not just about motivation, but about creating a bank of images, stories, and examples that serve as living proof that it is possible to thrive. References to abundance can come from a variety of sources: books, videos, conversations with people with a prosperous mindset, experiences that broaden your worldview, travel, lectures, courses, and even simple everyday observations. The important thing is that these references awaken within you the feeling of, "This is possible for me." The more this feeling is nurtured, the more natural it becomes to think big and act toward it. Another important point is to intentionally select the people and content you consume. The mind is shaped by what it repeatedly sees and hears. If you spend hours of your day consuming low-quality content that only reinforces scarcity or distracts you from what matters, you're wasting mental energy and programming yourself for a limited standard of living. Creating benchmarks of abundance also involves exposing yourself to environments that are above your current standard. This doesn't mean spending more than you can afford, but rather seeking out experiences that will acclimate your mind to new levels. Visiting beautiful places, attending events, talking to people who are already where you want to be, all of this trains your brain to accept a higher standard of living as normal. A practical exercise is to create a personal abundance library. This could be a folder on your phone or computer with inspiring photos, quotes, videos, and stories. Every day, set aside a few minutes to review this material. This reinforces your mental programming and helps you stay focused on what you want to build, even if the external environment sends you contrary messages. To publicly seal this formula, write in the comments, "I feed my mind with abundance." This way you'll be committing to being selective about what enters your mind and ensuring it receives the right fuel to generate prosperity every day. Over time, you'll notice that the more references of abundance you have, the more your mind begins to find ways and opportunities to transform these images into reality. And it's precisely at this point that the attraction of wealth ceases to be a desire and becomes a natural reflection of what you believe and live internally. The 20-second formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to make self-observation a daily habit. Most people go through life on autopilot, repeating the same patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior without even realizing it. It's like driving without looking at the dashboard. You don't see your speed, you don't notice how low your fuel is, and you only discover a problem when it's already become too big. Self-observation is the practice of consciously monitoring what you're thinking, feeling, and doing, so you can adjust your course before small detours become major roadblocks. The mind naturally dislikes self-observation. It prefers to follow familiar paths because this consumes less energy. But it's precisely in these automatic pathways that scarcity habits, limiting beliefs and behaviors that hinder prosperity, reside. When you begin to observe yourself, you create a space between stimulus and response, and it's in this space that your power of choice resides. The first step to practicing self-observation is to set aside time each day to ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Is it helping or hindering me? This simple question already reveals patterns that on autopilot would otherwise go unnoticed. You may notice that you're worrying about things you can't control, repeating negative phrases, or wasting mental energy on irrelevant matters. Self-observation is also about understanding your emotional reactions. For example, when you feel envious of someone who has achieved something, your automatic reaction might be to justify their success as luck or easy. But by observing yourself, you can choose to transform this emotion into inspiration, seeking to learn from what the other person has accomplished. Another point is to observe your behavior around money. Perhaps you notice that whenever you receive extra money, you spend it quickly, or that you postpone important financial decisions for fear of making a mistake. These patterns can only be changed if they are first identified. A simple tool for developing this skill is a mindfulness journal. At the end of the day, write down 3 situations in which you noticed your automatic thoughts or behaviors and how you could have acted differently. This record creates clarity and accelerates the mental reprogramming process. Over time, self-observation stops being a formal exercise and becomes a natural part of your routine. You begin to notice yourself in real time and adjust your course in the moment without having to wait for a problem to escalate before taking action. To publicly reinforce this formula, write in the comments, "I observe myself to become richer." This phrase will be a reminder that prosperity isn't built solely through grand actions, but also through daily, conscious adjustments to the small details. When you make self-observation a habit, you stop being a slave to your unconscious patterns and become the conscious author of your story. And it's precisely this level of awareness that allows you to attract wealth continuously and without extreme physical effort, because every choice becomes an investment in the life you desire. The 23rd formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to act intentionally in every choice. There's a huge difference between reacting to events and consciously creating the events you desire. Most people act only to solve whatever comes their way or put out fires, without considering the medium and long-term consequences. Those who act this way may achieve small advances, but they rarely build solid prosperity because there's no clear direction or consistency in their decisions. Acting with intention means taking each step with awareness of its impact on the future. It means asking before you act, does this decision bring me closer or further away from the life I want to live? It's about focusing not just on the immediate result, but on being consistent with your greater purpose. And when this becomes a habit, your actions stop being haphazard and start forming a consistent pattern of wealth building. Many people confuse acting with intention with acting slowly. But intention isn't slowness, it's direction. You can act quickly and still act with intention, as long as you're clear about where you're going and why you're making each move. This clarity reduces errors, saves energy, and increases the quality of results. Another important point is that acting with intention requires presence. When you're distracted operating on autopilot, it's easy to make decisions that aren't aligned with your goals. But when you're present, you can see if you're saying yes to things you don't actually want, or if you're wasting time and energy on something that doesn't contribute to your prosperity. Acting with intention also means having the courage to say no more often. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something that could actually generate growth. Prosperous people know how to choose where to allocate their time, attention, and resources, and this choice is what keeps them on track. A practical exercise to start today is the intention check. Before any relevant decision, stop and ask yourself, does this align with my values and long-term goals? Does this create a return that justifies my time and energy? If I repeat this decision over and over, where will it take me? These simple questions help filter out impulsive actions and ensure that each step is contributing to the destiny you want to build. Over time, acting with intention transforms your relationship with money, time, and opportunities. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter and start directing it all toward what truly builds wealth. To publicly reinforce this formula, write in the comments, "I act with intention to create my wealth." This phrase will serve as a daily reminder that each choice is a building block in the life you want, not just a reaction to what the world throws at you. When acting with intention becomes part of your nature, attracting wealth ceases to be uncertain and becomes a natural consequence. Because every step, no matter how small, will be aligned with the right direction, and aligned steps, repeated daily, inevitably lead to prosperity. The 24th formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to practice intelligent detachment. This is one of the most powerful keys to maintaining the flow of abundance, but also one of the most misunderstood. Many people think that detachment means giving up everything or not caring about anything, when in fact, intelligent detachment is the ability to release what has already served its purpose, what is no longer useful, or what is blocking space for the new. Excessive attachment, whether to objects, people, habits, or even old beliefs, creates stagnation. It's like keeping a closet full of clothes you don't wear. No matter how many new pieces you buy, there won't be room until the old ones are gone. It's the same in your financial and mental life. When you cling to things that no longer make sense, you block new opportunities, ideas, and resources from entering. Intelligent detachment begins with the awareness that nothing is permanent. Everything in life is in flux, and trying to hold on to what should have already gone is fighting against that flow. This applies to relationships that don't grow, methods that no longer work, objects that gather dust, and even thoughts that once helped, but now limit us. It's also important to understand that letting go isn't a loss, it's an exchange. Every time you release something that no longer serves you, you create space for something better. And this better can only enter because you allowed the space to exist. Those who keep their lives and minds full of debris live overwhelmed and with little capacity to receive. A key point in intelligent detachment is separating emotion from utility. Often we keep something solely for its sentimental value, even if it no longer serves a practical purpose or brings us real joy. You don't have to get rid of everything, but you do need to ask yourself, does this really contribute to the life I want now? If the answer is no, it might be time to let go. To apply this formula, I recommend starting with what's most visible, the physical environment. Choose a space in your home and remove everything you don't use, like, or need. Donate, sell, or discard. As you feel the relief and lightness of this freed-up space, you'll understand how the same process can be applied to your mind and emotions. Then move on to habits and commitments. Ask yourself, does this activity bring me closer to my prosperity, or is it just taking up space in my schedule? Often saying no to certain things is an act of detachment that paves the way for something much greater. Over time, you'll realize that intelligent detachment doesn't leave you with less but more. More clarity, more energy, and more space for opportunities that truly matter. To publicly seal this commitment, write in the comments, "I let go to prosper." This phrase will remind you daily that keeping only what has real value creates space for the new and for wealth to flow. When intelligent detachment becomes part of your life, you stop hoarding out of fear of lack and begin to live in the natural flow of abundance, where there is always room for something better to arrive. And it does. The 25th and final formula for attracting wealth without physical effort is to live in a state of worthiness. This is perhaps the sum total of all the others, because no matter how much you train your mind, organize your environment, improve your habits, or create strategies, if deep down you don't believe you deserve to be prosperous, there will always be an invisible limit, preventing wealth from remaining in your life. Many people even manage to earn more money or experience moments of abundance, but they soon lose, waste, or sabotage these achievements because, deep down, they don't feel worthy of them. This can stem from inherited family beliefs, negative past experiences, or misconceptions about what it means to have wealth. This internal ceiling is more powerful than any external circumstance. Living in a state of worthiness means accepting that wealth is not a privilege for the few, but a natural right of every human being willing to embrace it. It means understanding that thriving doesn't mean taking from someone else, but rather generating value, creating, contributing, and receiving in return fairly. It means abandoning the guilt of wanting more and exchanging that emotion for the healthy pride of building a better life. The first step to activating worthiness is to identify beliefs that contradict it. Phrases like "money doesn't bring happiness," "those who get rich exploit others," "I wasn't born to be rich," or "this is too much for me," are clear signs of an internal blockage. These phrases need to be replaced with affirmations of worthiness, such as "I am worthy of abundance," "I receive with gratitude," and "the more I prosper, the more I can contribute." Another essential point is learning to receive. It seems simple, but many people don't know how to react when they receive something. Be it a compliment, help, or a gift, they diminish the gesture, refuse, or respond with embarrassment. This behavior reinforces to the brain that receiving is uncomfortable or wrong. To break this pattern, practice accepting what comes with gratitude and without making excuses. Just say, "Thank you," and feel comfortable with it. Living in a state of worthiness also involves caring for yourself as someone who values their own life. This means treating yourself with respect, investing in your well-being, seeking constant growth, and surrounding yourself with people and experiences that elevate your standards. When you treat yourself as someone who deserves the best, the world begins to respond accordingly. To put this formula into practice now, stop for a moment, close your eyes, and mentally repeat, "I deserve a life rich in all areas, and I am ready to receive it." Feel the weight of these words as if they were already true, because for your mind, this feeling is the trigger that begins to break down the internal ceiling that limits your growth. And to publicly seal this commitment, write in the comments, "I deserve and receive wealth." By declaring this, you're not only affirming it to yourself, but also recording a turning point in your story. When you live in a state of worthiness, you don't need to desperately chase wealth. It begins to find you, because your mind, actions, and energy are already prepared to receive it, maintain it, and multiply it. This is true freedom, knowing that it's not only possible to prosper, but that it's absolutely natural for it to happen. If you've made it this far, comment like this, "I'm going to achieve wealth,"